Hi, it's Zoisa here, and I thought I'd put together a little video and talk about grief, loss. It's something that we all experience, and particularly at this time when we've just recently had the passing of our Queen, and maybe you've recently had somebody who's passed. And this made you either think about that or reflect on what was going on for you and how that felt. And one of the things that I wanted to really ask you to consider when we're looking at the bigger picture of loss or grief, it's not just the passing of somebody in the family or friend that we can grieve for, but also grief can occur when it comes to either transitioning or changing. Maybe you've no longer at a job, maybe you're just leaving a job. And then it was really interesting, I was talking to a new client who recently came to see me, and they'd gone through an injury of their back, and even that felt like a loss or a grieving. It's difficult to come to terms with what's going on. It's like your head thinks one thing, your emotions are saying something else, and then physically there's another thing going on. And it's like all these different aspects of you, two of them may be on the same page at the same time, or maybe it's just one, and there's this ping-ponging, yo-yoing action that can happen. And it's a cycle as well. So on my Mimi putting yourself back in the driver's seat, we talk about cycles and stages, and there is a cycle, there is a pattern, there are stages when it comes to the grief cycle. It starts with a normal functioning, and then there's shock or denial stage. In that shock or denial stage, maybe there's avoidance, confusion, fear, numbness, blame. And then there's the different behaviours and patterns and habits that come within that stage of the grief cycle. There is no specific, it lasts this long. It's, again, individual. How everybody deals with it or copes with it is personal to you. Then the next stage is anger, frustration, anxiety, irritation, maybe embarrassment or shame. You might have other words to describe this anger phase. Do you actually express your anger? And then we come to the depression or detachment stage. So overwhelmed, lack of energy, hopelessness, a bit meh, kind of nonplussed, or just don't feel one, don't feel the other. Bland would be my other description. And then we move through to dialogue and bargaining, so reaching out to others or a desire to tell your story, maybe struggling to find meaning for what's happened. And then acceptance phase, exploring the different options, a new plan may be in place. And then the final stage or phase is returning to hope and a meaning. So empowerment, security, confidence, self-esteem, really having meaning. So as I've talked about these different stages, I've kind of just laid them out, or you can see them written down in a curve, Kubler-Ross. There are a variety. But the important, or one of the things to consider, is you may see it as a graph, they may show it as a line, but it's more like two-step, a waltz. It's like 2 steps forward, 4 steps back. It can yo-yo and ping-pong. Doesn't have to be linear, but there are different stages, and maybe you're in one stage for shorter, another element and stage for longer. So the other thing that I find that's interest or important to consider with any emotion, but particularly I'd like to speak to you about grief, is the first question to ask yourself when you're feeling grief or loss is it safe to feel this emotion? Is it safe to feel this emotion? Ask yourself if the answer is no. What do I require to be safe to feel these emotions? Do I need space? Do I need help? Time? Nature? Hugs? Maybe a blanket? What is it that you require to be safe to feel your grief, your loss, whichever phase that you're in? Is the answer to that yes? Yes, I feel safe. I acknowledge this emotion. I'm in a safe place to let myself feel the grief, the loss. And I understand that by doing this, it will help me. For me, that brings us to a second important question. Am I able to support myself through this journey, through this grief cycle, through the loss cycle? So ask yourself, am I able to support myself through this journey, through this emotional journey? No? No. Ask yourself, what do I require to support myself? Friends, a support group, space, nature, time? Is the answer yes? Yes, I am and have a support network or system in place, and I'm currently able to support myself. Interestingly, I've given you a no and I've given you a yes. Maybe for you, the answer is, I don't know yet. Haven't got an answer yet. I need more time. Let me ask the question, 30 seconds, a minute, 5 minutes. Maybe I'll have the answer then, but right now, I don't know the answer to that. And it's okay to not have the answer to that question. Allow yourself the space, give yourself permission to not know, but always return. So ask yourself that question again, be it 5 seconds, 30 seconds, an hour, because at some point that I don't know yet will transfer to a no or a yes. Just have to work its way till you find your answer. The third question to consider: do I have enough energy for this journey? Do I have enough energy for this journey? No? Ask yourself, what is using up my energy? Lack of sleep, work, maybe it's food intolerances, people, just the emotions, the intensity that it feels. How much is on your plate? Maybe it's all the other things that are going on that you're having to deal with at the moment. Haven't got enough energy. Once you have an idea of what it is that's using up that energy, then it's like, okay, what are the different solutions maybe you could come up with? Or yes, I have enough energy to grieve, to go through this emotional journey. And often what I find really interesting and fascinating is when it is an emotion and it can feel quite dense or intense. Think about your words when it's some emotions like, oh, okay, and then others that just can feel quite big. And in that moment, it's like, oh, it actually takes quite a lot of energy to suppress and deny. So remember when we talked about that journey and that initial stage, so shock and denial is like the first one. Denial, don't even know I'm lying. Don't even know, deny, don't even know that what's going on. It's like tuned out, checked out. Maybe you're not even in your head or your body, you're kind of off out there somewhere. But it takes a lot of energy to suppress. It's like ignore, it's like, no, don't think that, don't feel that. It takes a lot of energy to just suppress and keep those emotions down. Think of it as you're in a pool of water and you've got like an inflatable or some balls. If those balls or the size of the balls or the different emotions, it takes a lot of energy to keep those emotions under the water. It's like to have that appearance of everything's fine, everything's calm. It takes a lot of energy. Maybe that's what is actually using up and zapping you, is to just keep that mask of everything's great, it's okay, I'm fine. But again, maybe your answer is yes. I have enough energy for this journey, or for this stage of the journey, for this phase of the journey. And my final consideration and question, number 4. Am I rested, restored, and able to process my grief? Am I rested, restored, and able to process my grief? No? Ask yourself, what type of space or environment do I require now? And how much time so that I am able to be rested, feel restored, and able to process my grief? How much time do I need? How much time have I got? Am I trying to fit it in between everything else? What is it that you need so that you're able to feel rested and restored? What does restore you? Fills you up? Maybe it's nature, maybe it's just quiet. Maybe being near water, going down the beach, maybe being near trees. Just putting your back, hugging a tree, shouting at the trees. Walking in nature. The answer could be yes. Yes, I have enough time and space to rest. So you need to put it in my schedule. I've made some time for me to rest, to be able to process this emotion. Again, there is also the third option. I don't know. I'm going to have to ponder and reflect upon that. Am I rested and restored and able to process my grief? There's a lot of information there. Maybe you are rested and restored. It's like, well, am I able to process it? Don't know. If you're not sure, well, I don't know what. Go back. Am I safe? So check through the questions. And naturally, this journey and cycle can relate to a variety of different emotions. even as you go through the different phases or stages of life, maybe you've just moved home recently or changed schools. Loss can come in a whole variety of different ways. Maybe you're saying goodbye to habits that no longer serve you. It's all, allow yourself to go through, or give yourself the opportunity to grieve those old aspects, things that may not be serving you. Taking that time. So that's quite a lot to consider and think about when it comes to grief. So just to recap for you, it is a cycle. There are different stages, the length of the stages, the rhythm, the pace, how long they last. It's a very individual thing. But there are the stages that you go through. Again, the head and the emotions and the body might be in different places. Maybe the head's like, you should be able to do this. What's the problem? What's going on? And the body's like, I'm just feeling really vulnerable, not feeling great at the moment. Maybe the emotions are feeling big or numbed out. They can be on different pages, that head, the mindset, the emotions, the physical body, how you're able to move in your body. But shock and denial, anger, depression or detachment, dialogue, bargaining, acceptance, and then the return to hope. And even through all those stages, our questions are, am I safe? Yes. No. Don't know. Am I safe? Am I able to support myself through this journey? Yes. No. Don't know. Do I have enough energy? So thinking about the activities, things you do, food, etc. And then the final one was, am I rested and restored and able to process my grief? Yes. No. Maybe. And if your answers are no, then what do you require so that you can translate and change that no and move it towards either a maybe or to a yes.